Allen, Hertzberg, Hueso, Jackson, Monning, Vidak, Volk.
Here.
Volk's here.
We do have a quorum. Members will be coming in and out because of some policy committees going on at the same time. So I wanted to establish a quorum. And then note for people who are in attendance, including our author that's presenting in just a moment or two, is that we're going to hear the bill, but at 10 o'clock, if we're not finished hearing the bill for some reason, that'll be continued to after the hearing on the drought, which will last approximately 2 hours from 10 to 12. So, and welcome to Senator Allen. So with that, Senator Huff, don't get too comfortable back there. We're going to go ahead and start. And Senator Huff, did you hear that sort of discussion that at 10 o'clock we have another hearing? So if we're not completely finished with yours, I'm not going to cut you off or anything. We will continue after the 2-hour hearing on the drought. Just the vote part. The vote. The only bill left, Madam Chair, really? Yes. Whatever you wish. So maybe we'll finish, but I'm just, just so you know, since we set a time certain at 10 o'clock on the drought hearing and have members of the administration coming to testify at that time. So, please begin.
Is the microphone on?
Yes,
there we go.
Is.
Start hearing it. SB 218 does the following: makes clear the intent of the legislature to ensure consistency of regulated traffic enforcement law throughout the state. It also clarifies the California Vehicle Code does not permit the use of an automated traffic enforcement system at any place where traffic is regulated by a stop sign in the state of California. California law explicitly authorizes the use of red light cameras for the purpose of traffic enforcement. Current law establishes clear parameters for the placement, use, and monitoring of these systems, California Vehicle Code Section 21455.5. There are explicit limitations on how red light camera systems can be operated and protections to ensure that managing operators are not generating additional tickets to bolster revenues. These are important due process protections associated with the use of automated traffic enforcement systems established by the legislature over time. Current law does not authorize the use of an automated traffic enforcement system at any place where traffic is regulated by a stop sign. And that's why we're here today. Operating these systems outside the purview of rules established for the use of automated enforcement systems under the California Vehicle Code exposes Californians to arbitrary placement and enforcement of traffic control devices, as well as a lack of due process and accountability. Currently, the only known stop sign camera program in operation is managed by the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, a joint powers authority made up of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, Conejo Recreation and Park District, and the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District. With 7 stationary devices in operation and at $100 per violation, these systems are unlawfully extracting millions of dollars in penalties from California drivers. 2 of these devices are in the Chair's District, and 5 are located within the boundaries of Senator Allen's district. In previous testimony, MRCA said SB 949 allows for these stop sign placements. Ledge Counsel has opined verbally otherwise, saying that regardless of SB 949 and the statutes in the Public Resources Code, the MRCA does not have the explicit authority to operate these devices. Additionally, in the 8 years this program's operated, no data has ever been produced to support the MRCA's public safety claims for the devices. I've asked for this data. It was never provided. The engineering firm that the MRCA hired to analyze its stop sign placement repeatedly states in its report, quote, "We requested intersection accident history data from the MRCA. However, accident history data is not available for the subject intersections and as such was not included in our review." The MRCA didn't provide this data in 2007 when these devices were turned on. They didn't provide this data in 2010 when their own engineering firm asked for it, and they didn't produce it in 2015 when I asked for it. It doesn't exist. Because the MRCA's stop sign camera system is operated outside the California Vehicle Code, citizens who receive these tickets must appeal through an internal MRCA administrative process, not the California Superior Court system, thus denying citizens their legal due process. When this was previously heard in Transportation Committee, it came through with only 1 opposing vote because this is clearly inconsistent with the California Vehicle Code. I have expert testimony with me today, Madam Chair.
We look forward to hearing that expert testimony. So your two witnesses, who's first up? Senator Huff?
Good morning. My name is Jay Bieber. I am the Executive Director of Safer Streets LA. I am also a research fellow with the Reason Foundation, and I most recently served on a subcommittee of the California Traffic Control Devices Committee, studying yellow light signal timing in the state of California. The protocols that we recommended were adopted by Caltrans and are now part of the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Before I get into specific expert testimony, there's been a lot of claims that the people that have a problem with these kinds of programs are simply scofflaws who don't like getting tickets. So I just want to make it clear for the record, I've never gotten one of these tickets. I've never gotten a red light camera ticket, and I haven't gotten a moving violation in over 25 years. So today you have the opportunity to vote in favor of the rule of law by voting in favor of SB 218. All SB 218 does is clarify that all government entities must follow the same set of rules when placing traffic control devices and enforcing laws pertaining to the movement of vehicles. That set of rules is the California Vehicle Code and the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Only one government entity in the entire state blatantly ignores the vehicle code and the proper protocols for the placement of traffic control devices in order to set up a ticketing scheme whose only purpose is to generate revenue through the issuance of 25,000 tickets a year. Now, the MRCA will claim that this program is needed for safety. The MRCA has never provided, as Senator Huff has said, any evidence whatsoever that there was a safety problem at any of these intersections prior to the cameras being installed. No accident data, no collision data, nothing, and we've asked for it numerous times. Yet they would like you to take their word for it. Now, I see that we may have some videos here, and so I want to say that you may, if you put up a camera and you place it and you run it 24 hours a day for over 7 years, you're going to find some people, some knucklehead who's going to do something stupid. You're going to find videos of that. But the fact of the matter is the vast majority of these are very slow rolls past stop signs that are misplaced. The MRCA also will claim that the cameras are needed because they have cut through traffic through their parks. The fact of the matter is that there's only one park that has cut through traffic, that's Franklin Canyon. The other stop sign locations, which are four of the 7, are in places where there is no cut through traffic. And if you look at the package that we have submitted to you, you'll see that their traffic studies show that the Franklin Canyon location actually has the lowest number of traffic, the smallest amount of traffic going through that location, as opposed to all the other locations that don't have cut-through traffic. The MRCA also will claim that their infrastructure is so different than everywhere else in the state that they have to have these cameras for safety purposes. However, if you look at the pictures that we've submitted, in one location, this is the entrance to the Marvin Browdy parking lot where they painted a crosswalk and then put up a stop sign. You can see this is just an extension of a regular city street. This is not unusual infrastructure. If you look at the top of Topanga location, this is a state highway. This is not unusual or rural locations where they have infrastructure that doesn't match streets. If you look at the location in Temescal Canyon, which is, I'm not sure where that picture is, but at any rate, there's oh, here it is. This picture, this is again just like a regular city street. It is nothing different.
And if you could wrap up, we have other people that wish to testify. I didn't know if you were told there's time limits in this committee.
Sure, absolutely. So, the last thing I want to say is that the most egregious part of this is the placement of the stop signs. And this is not just coming from us. This is from a traffic expert who is a 50-year veteran in traffic engineering, a member of the Federal Highway Administration's National Committee on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And he has stated, and I quote, that the placement of the stop signs violate the fundamental concepts of the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices and of sound traffic engineering in general. He has also stated that the reason that this is a problem is because drivers are not ignorant, and they know where there is no justification for unreasonable controls, and as such, they violate these unreasonable controls. This is why responsible agencies do not install unreasonable controls. So today, You have a choice as to whether you want to help continue this program. I would venture to guess that the members here, if a private company was doing this, that the members here would likely be up in arms and they would be putting in legislation to stop them immediately. But because it's a government agency that does some very fine things, that somehow it seems to be okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. The other primary witness?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the committee, Tim Chang for the Auto Club of Southern California. Unfortunately, we are in support of the bill. I don't want to repeat prior testimony, but I do want to highlight that the auto clubs and AAA, we do not categorically oppose automated enforcement. However, over the years since its implementation back in the 90s, we have seen repeated problems with how the cameras are implemented, where they're placed, and the state auditor took a look at the situation back in the early 2000s, came out with a number of recommendations. The AAA sponsored a bill. We were able to rectify some of those problems, but some still persist in the red light camera area, including intersection selection criteria. I think that's what Mr. Beaver is trying to get at, is that we've seen that automated enforcement cameras are often placed at in inappropriate spots, and they sort of catch drivers in violations. I'd also want to say that I think the MRCA is maintaining the position that they got an exemption from state law in SB 949. We were a primary supporter, if not the de facto sponsor, of Senator Oropez's bill back in 2010. I was there during those negotiations on the amendment that the MRCA is highlighting. And what I can say is that that amendment is meant, Senator Oropeza did not want to get involved with the Recreations Conservancy area. Her bill was was motivated by another problem that was going on at the time, and that was local cities and counties enforcing their own local ordinances and subverting the vehicle code's penalty structure. And so that amendment was meant to be neutral. In fact, the MRCA during those negotiations submitted an amendment on exempting them from the bill, and it was written how you would expect an amendment like that to read. It just said the MRCA is not subject to this statute. But that's not what that amendment says. It was carefully crafted to leave it open that we're not saying whether they do or don't, but to the extent there is authority out there, then this bill, SB 949, did not impinge upon it. So we would argue that that the MRCA is outside of the code, and we urge your support of the bill.
Yes.
Greg Herner on behalf of AAA of Northern California, Nevada, and Utah, and our 3.5 million members. And we're just here in support of the bill and uniform enforcement of traffic laws.
Thank you, Greg. Other people who wish to lend their name in support of this measure, if you'd come up and, as a tradition in this committee, a name and affiliation and just simply your position on this bill.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Mark Ozello. I'm an attorney in Pacific Palisades. I get about one call a week, I should say, from people who get these stop signs. My biggest complaint is twofold. Number one,
Custom and practice is, I'll let you finish that sentence, but that's it, is just name and affiliation, your position in support, and it's not ongoing testimony. Thank you. And please feel free to submit anything else you have in writing, because if this bill passes, it'll continue on in the process. Thank you. And other people who wish to come in support? Okay. Opposition to this measure? And while they're coming up, I wanted to say, for the benefit of the members who just came, at 10 o'clock we'll be switching to a hearing on the drought. I will be entertaining a motion before 10, but it could be likely that Senator Allen will need additional time at the end of the drought hearing around noon to complete the testimony. I don't want to rush the questions. We should be able to finish the testimony, but open it up for members' questions, right, and the close. Okay, who's first?
Tim Yarian, representing MRCA, introducing Senior Ranger Jewel Johnson and MRCA's Chief Counsel, Jeff Maloney, to present testimony for MRCA.
Good morning. I'm Ranger Jewel Johnson. I'm a supervising ranger, and I have been a ranger with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority for 18 years. I have managed and participated in all the parts of the stop sign photo enforcement program since it began more than 7 years ago. The Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority is a local parks agency that manages over 72,000 acres of parkland in the Southern California region from Ventura County east to the San Gabriel Mountains. We manage more than 100 parks that are unique in California because they are part of a system of open spaces and mountain areas that go through the most heavily populated urban areas in the nation. I am one of only 10 rangers who are responsible for the public safety in our parks. We are California peace officers, and enforcement will always be a part of our duties. But there's a reason why we are known for our hats, because we wear many hats. As journalist rangers, we are peace officers, wildland firefighters, and because of the drought, our fire season is now year-round. Our duties also include emergency rescue services, fire prevention, marijuana eradication projects, trail work, interpretation, public assistance, and dealing with the increasing number of transients in the open space. As we discuss the photo enforcement program today, please understand well before this program started, we have been trying to deal with serious safety problems at these hazardous locations in 4 of our parks. Hikers, cyclists, vehicles, and school groups participating in our interpretive programs and camps are all on the same narrow roadways, and they all share the park roads. Vehicles use the roads in our parks to bypass the heavy commuter traffic in nearby canyons, and cars often drive at dangerously high speeds, and stop signs are put in place long ago to regulate the cars in the areas where there are the most dangerous interactions between cars and other park visitors. Along with my fellow rangers, for many years we have tried every method at our disposal to get cars to slow down and obey the stop signs, including issuing citations in the field, which we still do. Like other park agencies up and down the state, we write administrative citations when people break the park traffic rules. However, with all the responsibilities we have as rangers in keeping the public safe in these urban mountains, we are not able to spend all of our time doing traffic control. Long before the mountains were acquired for public protection and recreational use, these roadways were originally built as service and fire access roads not open to the public. Our park roadways would never meet the standard of a city street like a Sunset or a Ventura Boulevard or Olympic Parkway. And pedestrians are prohibited to walk down those city streets. On our park roads, our park visitors are allowed to walk down the same roads as vehicles, as there is sometimes no other way to get through the parks. As you can see from the videos we have brought to you to show, cars that do not stop at the stop signs create a serious public safety danger. As an example, in Franklin Canyon Park, our park roadway is windy with blinding curves around a lake, and many park users are unaware of the volumes of traffic coming through. Our photo enforcement program has made a huge difference in changing people's behavior while they drive through the parks. Serious accidents are avoided every day by vehicles stopping at a stop sign.
And if you could wrap up, just so we have enough time for the other people to testify, please.
Again, these are not public streets. And again, it's our responsibility as park rangers to protect our public visitors. And again, forcing us to close this valuable enforcement tool is going to be detrimental to our park visitors. Again, our number one thing is to make sure that our park visitors visit our parks, have an enjoyable time, and leave our parks safe. And this is one tool, just one tool that we use to accomplish that in all our duties that we have to perform. Thank you.
For your attendance and your presentation and the video. Next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Jeff Maloney, Chief Counsel with the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority. I just sort of want to recast this issue as far as the legal issues are involved. There's been, supporters of the bill are portraying this as some sort of unauthorized loophole, or that the program itself is illegal. I want to kind of briefly touch on the statutory structure that this is based upon. Public Resources Code 5786.1 gives broad authority to park agencies to regulate the use of its own parkland, to adopt ordinances to do so. Government Code 53069.4 gives those local agencies the power to enforce the ordinances administratively. which is what this is. These are non-criminal violations. SB 949 that resulted in Vehicle Code 21B, it was helpful to clarify that the MRCA's program was not affected. However, we feel it was unnecessary because it recognized the current existing authority of the MRCA under the other statutes. And I think one thing that the proponents have glossed over is that the only published case on this issue, we were sued on this and we won this case, the only published case from a 3-judge panel in the LA County Appellate Division, MRCA versus Kaufman, ruled in our favor. And this was not a narrow ruling, this was a slam dunk win for the MRCA. I'll read a short excerpt. By express language, the legislature authorized agencies such as the MRCA to regulate traffic within their districts so long as the regulations are not in conflict with state law. We find no conflict between the general law and that section of the MRCA ordinance challenged by the appellant. It's very clear if you read the case. I can provide a citation. It's published. The statutory framework is clear. The Kaufman decision backed it up, and I just want to make sure that this committee understands this is not a housekeeping bill. This is not something to close a loophole. This will be overturning years and years of precedent. This will be overhauling a specific program that the legislature has approved in the past. And now with recent amendments to involve park agencies and joint powers agencies up and down the state, this could have untold, unforeseen consequences and could potentially result in some quite a few unfunded mandates. 2 more issues on.
We don't have time for 2 more issues. If you want to just mention not in length, but what they are, not.
Robust due process. We have a de novo review by Superior Court that is written into the statute.
There's members who are going to have questions, so stay seated, please. Others who wish to add on with their name and position of support?
John Lovell, representing the Los Angeles Police Protective League, the Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, California Association of Code Enforcement Officers, the California College and University Police Chiefs Association, and the California Narcotic Officers Association. We are strongly opposed to this bill. I want to make one very brief comment, if the chair will indulge me.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, I can do it.
Okay.
There was reference was made to the so-called questionable placement of stop signs. What that reference ignores is that stop signs are used for 2 different purposes. The majority view, to be sure, is for right-of-way, but the other way is for speed,
Okay.
and that's what this is for.
There may be a question on that, so stay put. Other people who wish to testify using the microphones at either end, name and affiliation in your position, I assume in opposition to the bill.
Yeah, Tim Yarian with MRCA, just 1 point. Almost 50% of the citations are dismissed before they're ever go to administrative review. This is not about revenue for us. This is about slowing people down. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any other people here? Most people are here for the drought hearing. I can feel that. Now, 2 members said they had questions, I assume, of this panel. Senator Hueso, do you still have a question? Followed by Senator Manning.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask, at these signs where you have a video, is the public informed that they're being videoed?
Yes.
So when they drive by, they just see the sign and they blow past it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I have actually, before the cameras were put in at Temesco, I would park my truck, which is a F-350, light bars, park it right next to the stop sign, and people will still go through, and they're thinking that, well, no one's around. Except I'm around.
If I can add on to that, there's a sign when you enter the park informing you. There's a sign 50 feet before, a big yellow warning sign informing that it's photo enforced. Then under each stop sign, there's a small rectangular red sign that says photo enforced. So no fewer than 3 times.
Senator Manning, did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'm not sure it's maybe a comment, maybe a question if somebody can answer it. Some of the video, I think it was this intersection, there were a lot of hikers, and one was a family with kids, and you could see the mom holding the kids back as the car blew through. But I'm wondering, the placement of the stop sign, there's a gap between the stop sign and I don't know, is there a painted crosswalk there?
Yes.
Yeah. You can actually see the stop sign from the stop line from that satellite photo.
But if you stop this side of the stop sign and make a full stop and then start to accelerate, you don't really have visibility. A pedestrian can still come walking in front of you, right?
What you have is the stop limit line is at the end of a blind curve.
If you could speak into the microphone.
The limit line is around at the end of a blind curve there, so we want to make sure people stop after that curve, before the crosswalk, so that pedestrians crossing have time to cross, and that the motorists can actually have time to see anyone crossing that crosswalk there.
Also, that parking lot is where the school buses get dropped off.
Through the chair.
Thank you. So again, I'm a little confused because the argument that nobody's obeying the stop signs doesn't seem to me to be an argument to remove them. It does seem to raise the question as to whether they're appropriately placed. The one that looks like we would normally see a yield sign where there's a stop sign, seems like that should probably be a yield sign.
This is not,
Yeah,
he's
again,
going to ask a question. If he doesn't ask a question, it's a comment.
right. So, yeah, this is just really a comment. I'm troubled by, it seems like we need the enforcement to protect pedestrians and people using the parks. They seem to be the ones at risk when people blow through these stop signs. But it doesn't, some of these illustrations, they don't seem to be well placed, or I don't know if there's a way that they could be better placed or better designed. But again, I'm all for improving the use of these for their purpose, which is to protect primarily pedestrians, but also people maybe on bikes or other vehicles. So I'm going to stop there and just listen. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Senator Jackson, did you have a question of these three or the gentleman who had, if you would sit down, please. And you may be called up if they have a question of you. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So to try to understand this, because I agree that the location seems a little strange in some of these. Understanding, too, that you want to keep pedestrians safe, and some of these drivers, the way they're driving is appalling. But the complaint by the supporters was that actually you didn't have jurisdiction to do this. You said that there's case law on this that says you absolutely do. So have we resolved that you do have the jurisdiction unless this bill precludes you from doing so?
Let's ask the attorney again to answer that question, and then Senator Huff, if you end up have a comment on that and you want to direct your
Great. I don't care who answers it. I just want to I want to see if I understand this issue.
Yes, there have been a handful of lawsuits against the program. The only one that resulted in a published opinion from a appellate level court is this Kaufman case, and that's the passage I read to you. It makes it very clear that we have the authority.
Okay. Is that your understanding, Senator Huff?
No, alleged counsel in a verbal opinion says, regardless of SB 949 and the statutes in the Public Resources Code, the MRCA does not have the explicit authority to operate these devices. And you heard AAA talk about when they created SB 949, all it was saying was that, notwithstanding everything else, this doesn't preclude. But if something else did preclude, that would be...
And that's the reason for the bill, as I understand.
Correct.
Okay, so there's a dispute, although if I were a betting person and hopefully still remember enough of the law, if you have a published opinion, it supersedes what alleged counsel or anyone else has to say unless there's a conflicting appellate court decision. So that's the case there. Why don't you have any statistics, or is there no way to define, if you will, the hole in a bagel as to why, when you've been asked to provide a documentation to show that this has generated greater safety, why don't we have any of that data?
I think that Ranger Johnson can weigh in on this, but the MRCA Rangers, as you heard, are generalist rangers, do quite a few things, and they don't actually keep accident records at these sites. That's not to say that there haven't been accidents, that the MRCA doesn't maintain those. What we do witness on a day-to-day basis is that these are problematic locations, and there was some discussion about the traffic studies that we had commissioned, and each one of them found that the shared roads, the substandard physical characteristics of those roads in these particular locations required some oversight, some regulation, and they resulted in the placement of these stop signs.
So did you provide Senator Huff with some of these traffic studies? If you don't have the data, and so did those traffic studies, may I, through the chair, did those traffic studies indicate that having some kinds of controls at those locations was justified to protect those pedestrians and bicyclists who would otherwise be on those streets or roads or whatever we call them today?
The engineering firm that MRC hired said, in the report, we requested intersection accident history data from the MRCA. However, accident history data is not available for the subject intersections and as such was not included in our review.
I understand that, but all that being said, did they conclude that having these controls and systems in place on these streets was in fact appropriate given the traffic and the efforts being made to try to protect pedestrians from being injured? That's, I think, what most of us here are concerned about, is whether or not these traffic controls are necessitated because of the traffic or the people crossing the streets. That's what, did they in their report come to that conclusion even if they didn't get the information that you've just identified?
No, because they couldn't demonstrate there was a problem before the study, nor is they're demonstrating a problem now. The MRC doesn't keep track of it. They haven't produced one accident.
Okay, but that's, if I may, that contradicts what this gentleman just said, is that the traffic studies showed that having those signs and so forth, that kind of control at those locations was appropriate for the safety of those people using this area. So we have a difference of opinion? Okay.
Difference of opinion. And Senator Stone?
Thank you, Senator Pavley. You know, by the own admission of the opponents, 50% got their tickets refunded. So that's an alarming statistic for me. And if the cameras are working so well, why do we have so many people going through them? Also, with respect to using them as a speed deterrent, that's not something that I think a traffic engineer would endorse. Usually you use an 85th percentile. And then you determine what the speeds are, and then at appropriate locations where you have crosswalks and things like that, that might be an appropriate place for stop signs.
Can I respond to that, Senator?
Senator Stone, you could direct the question to whomever you like.
Yes.
But it's not a chance to just anyone.
I'm just making some comments right now. But I agree with Senator Monning that the placement of these stop signs not only is in peculiar locations, but in some cases it's just hard to see them. And so what municipalities are doing today is they're putting solar innervated lights, red lights that are flashing so that you can see them if they're in an obscure area. And also, what I also notice in some of the pictures is there's a lot of dirt on the road which covers the striping so you can't even see stop sign ahead. So my concern is that it's outside of the code. We have issues of people running through stop signs throughout the state, which, you know, we usually do. And we used to have people that used to come to city council meetings and say, oh, they're running through stop signs in our neighborhood. We used to put out more enforcement. And of course, the people that were there complaining were the ones that got the tickets for running through the stop signs, which is kind of interesting. But again, and I will direct the question now, was a traffic engineer consulted and were all these stop signs that were placed based on contemporary standards?
Contemporary standards of
traffic engineering.
I think the traffic engineering studies were based on contemporary data and information. I think one thing that the proponents of the bill are emphasizing is that these signs don't adhere to the MUTCD, the Municipal Traffic and Control Device Law standards, and that may very well be true because these are not controlling typical city streets, intersections, highways that the Vehicle Code and the MUTCD applies to. As you can see, these are park roads. They're controlling for trailheads and for crosswalks from picnic areas to parking areas. They're controlling for odd configurations of streets that were never intended to be park roads. So,
but I can tell you in the county Riverside, we have county parks, and we have our engineers in the county go through large sets of roads that we have there to appropriately put signals if necessary, stop signs where necessary, but they use contemporary traffic engineering consultations to do that. So was that done in this park, or were they just put at arbitrary places where you think there might have been a pedestrian safety issue?
They were certainly not arbitrary. They were based on rangers' observation, on the traffic engineering studies, and the best methods available at the time they were put in.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Senator Allen, we'll take a few more questions, and then I'm going to ask the author to close. But feel free to question whoever you need to question.
All right, thank you, Senator. I wanted to ask the folks from MRCA. It seems to me that, I've driven in the mountains a lot. The best way to slow people down is through speed bumps. And I just wanted to know whether you've, to the extent to which you've considered speed bumps as a traffic calming mechanism.
Again, these are not city streets. People are hiking on the streets.
Right.
Our park roadways. These signs are put where there is a trail that crosses right in front of them.
Well, they're put about 25 feet in front of the trail, which is where people aren't expecting to have a...
No, we have one, look at the one at the dam we have at Franklin Canyon Park. The trail is less than 12 feet in front of the stop sign. The one that we talked about where the intersection that seems like you can't have the clearance and there was an arbitrary, you thought there was an arbitrary crosswalk there, that's our main parking lot where we drop the kids off. And one of the methods is to try to keep people off the roadway as much as possible. That crosswalk leads to another trail. So they're not put there just because we just thought that'd be a good idea. They're put there for very specific reasons.
My question was about speed bumps. To what extent have you used speed bumps as a way of traffic calming?
We don't use speed bumps because, again, cars are not the only things on this road. We have bicycles on the road. We have mothers with their strollers and their kids. We're not going to have the mothers doing this on their strollers. This is not just for vehicles. It's for hikers. It's for bikers. It's for pedestrians. This is not a Ventura Boulevard.
Senator,
we don't put speed bumps on Ventura Boulevard.
He asks the questions. You don't interrupt.
Yeah. But do you have a comment on that, sir?
Then you can answer.
I do, and just specifically on the speed bump issue, there are speed bumps in some of our parks. But remember, this is not just about slowing traffic down. This is about stopping traffic in certain locations. Speed bumps don't stop traffic. We need stop signs at the crosswalks, at locations where there are trail crossings right at that location. That's why stop signs are most appropriate in those locations. Although we would be willing to consider speed bumps and other traffic slowing devices anywhere in our parks.
I'd love to talk to you about that. One question I have for you also is, do you agree with the data that's been presented by the supporters that suggests that 25,000 tickets are given out every year at 7 stop signs?
Yeah, you look at Franklin Canyon Park, National Park Service, they do an independent vehicle count.
Do you agree with that data? I'm just trying to understand.
That is the overall number for all the, but you have 100.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's what he wanted.
Yeah.
Senator Hertzberg.
Yeah, I was asked one time in a neighborhood council, what did I regret in my former service in government? And I said the single regret was red light camera bill that we passed some years ago. I hate it with a passion for a bunch of reasons. That being said, what's clear here is I'm not going to support the bill today, but what's clear is that there is a way. When you search on 7 stop signs, when you have 25,000 tickets and you're in the middle of a park in the middle of nowhere, there has to be a better way to serve public safety. We are not being successful. The reason why it raises the question that this is about revenue and not about safety. You can put signs 1,000 feet out, 500 feet out, hikers around, or you can come up with speed bumps that do not affect strollers or bicycles or something with experts. So I think what I would like to do, and I told this to Senator Huff, is to work with him on this measure afterwards to figure out a way that on the one hand, What you do is God's work, and it's phenomenal to make sure you have enough resources and to fight to the death to make it happen. But on the other hand, to really get safety that works, because you do not have 25,000 people at 7 stop signs in the middle of nowhere that have this problem, that are getting these huge tickets, and it is a problem. We have to be better than that. You know, one of my big issues is tickets, and I hate all these tickets and all the money that people are paying and what it costs them, and we've got to figure out a better way to fund our government and have a safe government than just hammering people with $2.5 million worth of tickets.
I think a lot of people would agree with that. You know, it's frustrating, and having, there's pluses and minuses when you have an amazing park in the middle of an urban area. It creates challenges, and it's a wonderful thing. We have the largest park in the middle of an urban area than anywhere else in the country. Senator Videk, yes. Question, and I'd welcome a motion from over here before the
for the MRCA, after a citation is written or sent to the person, is there any teeth or authority that makes the person pay?
Yes, however, it's an administrative penalty, essentially a civil penalty, and it's enforceable.
Nothing goes to DMV, or there's no points or anything like that?
It's intentionally not a criminal citation, that's correct.
Right. Well, my question, and it almost looks like this actually encourages people because they know it's not going to be enforced, and then the folks that don't know this are seeing people run stop signs, and we actually saw people go around people that had stopped, and it's actually creating a bigger problem, I think. I think more people are actually, it makes it unsafe because there is no enforcement here. I mean, people know that they don't have to stop, that nothing's going to happen to them, and I think you really got to think about that. So I'd like to move the bill, though.